Hey guys, it's Amanda and Barron with Kicking Cancer Cares on KSLM Radio 104.3 FM and 1220 AM. Our sponsor for this first half is Odd Moe's Pizza. You guys, I recommend their Reggie Veggie and their Green Monster Add Chicken on cauliflower crust. Is that your favorite too?
It really is. I love the Reggie. I think that's kind of a standard for us to recommend those two.
It is, and they've got this barbecue one too. It's phenomenal. You can't go wrong with any of their pizzas. And they're actually hiring right now. So I'm going to read a message from Mike. He said that they are accepting applications for both drivers inside and supervisors at Odd Moe's Pizza. People can fill out an application online or just bring it in, bring your resume in person to the Lancaster location, or you can drop it off at their corporate office at 1745 23rd Street, Southeast Salem, Oregon. The requirements are you must be 18 years or older, disciplined with work habits, and outgoing, and a desire to succeed. And let me just tell you guys right now that Mike is absolutely phenomenal. So working for him would definitely be a pleasure and a treat.
Speaking of a treat, this is not our studio.
It is not.
This is somebody's studio, but not our studio.
Correct.
And we do have two guests with us. This is your studio.
Yes.
So will you introduce yourselves, please?
Yeah. So my name's Melissa Johnson. I'm the owner of Silver Falls Wellness, which is in Salem, Keizer, Oregon.
Not Silver Falls.
Not Silver Falls. We started in Silver Falls and then moved to Keizer.
Nice.
So now we're nestled in the Aspen Grove, which is the bigger building where lots of different practitioners.
Right.
Yeah.
And who's with you?
So this is Miss Cassie. She is my other half of doing colon hydrotherapy, and we like to joke around with who manifested who. But
It was a joint manifest?
I think so.
I think Casey manifested you. I don't know.
That's what I say, but she says the opposite
That's okay.
of that.
Well,
Yeah.
we're going to get much deeper into this whole story of why we're here. Amanda and I had this idea that we had to go to our store a few weeks ago just from some technical problems.
Yeah, our
But
studio is getting up and going.
it was just not there, and I'm like, we could go on location when appropriate. Now that we have a wonderful YouTube channel, and so we're actually going to show off some of the stuff that we're going to talk about. So
Sounds great.
super fun.
Awesome.
Last week we were in studio, but our guest called us from New Mexico.
Oh, that's right.
But he was
George's.
yeah, and I found that I was saying it completely wrong. It's Jorge.
Yes.
I was calling-
George's or Jorge.
Yeah, but he was from Venezuela, and in 1978 he got a full ride scholarship to play tennis. Went to New Mexico State. He was diagnosed with malignant melanoma, top of his head, metastasized into his brain.
Mm-hmm.
He had 10 surgery over the course of 10 years. He had 3 inoperable tumors, and then he went to this prayer event, and he comes back, and the doctor says, we have 2 pieces of good news. No more surgeries, and we can't find the tumors anymore. And he left corporate America,
Yeah.
and you'll love this, Casey. He left corporate America. He was a chief technical officer for some big company. He is now a holistic healer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
he is teaching people how to heal themselves,
Yeah.
much like we're going to talk about today, with the much more natural methods.
Oh, I'm
Great.
excited to dive
Yeah.
into
I
this
know.
one.
This is going to be good.
It is.
Well, we have been going through a book. It's called The 100 Disease Fighting Foods. I'm showing the camera right now.
Wrong angle.
Wrong
there,
angle.
Baron.
That camera over there.
We're at this one.
But when I brought this tip today to Casey and Melissa, they actually brought us a treat.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
So today's is grapefruit.
Citrus surprise. It's 1 orange, half a grapefruit, and a cup of strawberries.
Okay.
Ooh, oh, that sounds really good.
Just be careful cutting in front of this camera.
So the book says this bright fruit has gone in and out of vogue, but its health benefits have never wavered. Remember that old grapefruit diet? Believe it or not, studies show that this flashy fruit fights obesity. In small study groups, obese people who had half a fresh grapefruit before meals had significant weight loss. Unlike those who didn't have the fruit, grapefruit consumption also reduces blood sugar levels 2 hours after eating.
Wow.
Further, grapefruit is a plus for the immune system.
Mhm.
Lots of our problems are bad immune system.
Mhm.
since it's chock full of antioxidant, phytonutrients, vitamin A, vitamin C, and the citric acid in this fruit helps ward off most common types of kidney stones.
Wow.
That's great.
Now, I know you ladies probably have even more thoughts on grapefruits.
Yeah, well, I mean, our favorite aspect would be the fiber, the water insoluble fiber. So that's going to just help brush the colon, which is important to what we do here.
Brush the colon.
Yes.
I like that.
Yep, you got to get that poo out of you.
Yeah.
And so
Ooh, I like that. Get the poo out of you.
you do.
She's got a sign up here that said, "Would poo here again," with 5 stars. I like that.
Yes. Got to have humor.
Well, and you brought up an interesting point about the fiber. I was having an interesting discussion with my sister who co-founded Kickin'Cancer, and I'm a big fan of grapefruit or orange juice.
Mm-hmm.
And she reminded me, thank you so much, sis, how much sugar is actually inside of orange juice.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she says if you actually eat the orange, you're getting the fiber from
Yes.
the same thing with the grapefruit, because I love grapefruit juice too. So
Mhm.
And you
Right, so-
slow down that sugar spike
yeah.
when you have the fiber too.
Okay, here we go.
Oh
Good
yeah.
testing.
This is definitely a good
Yeah.
one. This is really, really good. I love the
Oh my.
grapefruit tasting. It's a cooking show now.
Oh wow.
It's a cooking show now.
That's a whole other show.
This is delicious.
Mm.
We tried a few different recipes, and that was our favorite.
So again, what's inside this?
It's an orange, a half a grapefruit, and a cup of strawberries with the greens cut off.
Okay. Well, the
Wow.
grapefruit is strong enough you can taste that, but I can taste the strawberries now that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
Yay.
Super
That was
good.
delicious
Yeah.
Good.
and good for you. All the way around.
All the
That's a
way
win-win.
around.
I chopped mine off.
I will finish mine in a second. Well, the one update I want to give people is today, Saturday, we've done a variety of Go teams throughout the years. We had a lady, I guess about a year and a half ago. Her name was Sandy Thornton. She lives in
Yeah.
Dallas. Sandy had gotten just an absolutely horrible blood cancer diagnosis, but she has beaten it and she's surviving. So today, if you go to the Red Cross there on Hawthorne Street, there is a platelet drive specifically for Sandy Thornton.
Oh,
Wow.
that's cool.
So it's a Sandy
Yeah.
Thornton platelet drive, and it's from 7 this morning, so it's already started, until 3 this afternoon. But the need for blood and platelets is just huge.
Always. Yeah.
Well, to our guest, I want to segue back to a show we did in June the 15th, and this will be so valuable for you ladies to weigh in on. The American Cancer Society released information that under the age of 50, colon cancer would be the #1 killer in men and #2 in women. Unfortunately, breast is still #1 for women, but colon cancer under the age of 50. Now, the first thing that caught my attention with that is everything I see on the news says when you turn 50, get a colonoscopy.
Mm-hmm.
Except if it's the #1 killer under the age of 50, it's already too late.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like I'm already dead.
Yep.
So your thoughts on this shocking piece of information?
Yeah, well, prevention is everything. And tying into what we do with colon hydrotherapy, a big piece of it is we're cleaning out the colon, we're getting rid of toxic waste, and we're creating a better terrain and environment so certain cancers don't form. And do you want to add to your functional medicine piece?
Well, I think along with the colonics, it's really good to mention about the gut microbiome, and I think we'll get into that a little bit more later. But those fibers are super important to feed the cells of the colon, and so they make an anti-inflammatory terrain, and so that's really important to always be adding in or thinking about the different kinds of fiber because different bacteria feed on different fibers.
Ooh, well, there's fibers in my drink, so I know we're going to talk about that here in a little bit.
And, am I wrong? But is colon cancer, isn't it preventable with what we eat?
Well, again, we use a phrase on this show called correlation causation, right?
Mhm.
I cannot prove, which would be causation, but I believe that the most preventable cancer has got to be colon cancer. So much of our diet has become very
Right.
processed foods, and if it's bad going in, it's bad going out.
Yes.
I'm not saying that you're not going to get colon cancer, but it's definitely very preventable.
Right. One of the more preventable ones, I guess I would say.
Definitely one of the more preventable ones through diet and lifestyle. Even with genetics, you can modulate inflammation by controlling inflammation. You can control whether the key gets stuck in the ignition and starts up.
Correct. So, yes.
And easier to do that than to turn the engine back off.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Prevention is key.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, speaking of prevention, you guys just stole her title. She's the Segway Queen, but they took it from you.
That's all right. You ladies take that queen title.
This is actually a book that I found. It's called The Cancer Prevention Diet. And this book was written in 1993. This book is already 30 years old, which is unfortunate that they didn't take this book and talk more about it.
Right.
It's a Japanese gentleman. I won't slaughter his name, but he talks about the macrobiotic blueprint for prevention and relief of disease. And I went to the section specifically on colon cancer. And there's a study that was done in 1985, and it was the New England Journal of Medicine that reported follow-up treatments for 9 of 10 most common cancers, including large intestinal cancers, were no more effective than no treatment. In some cases, could lead to death or further disabilities by not doing follow-up treatments. That was 1985. The other one I thought that was quite intriguing out of this book was we talked a lot about lifestyle, right?
Mm-hmm.
A sedentary lifestyle, including long hours of watching television. Now, this is 1993. I think we're even more sedentary as a society than we were then, but including long hours of watching television or the habit of riding in cars for short distances instead of walking is another major factor contributing to intestinal ailments. They refer to a study group. They eat only 2 or 3 times a day, rarely eat between meals or before going to bed, and approach their daily activities as creative participants rather than passive spectators.
Mm-hmm.
Creative participants in your own life instead of passive participants.
Right, yeah. I like that.
I thought that one was quite intriguing. The last one I wanted to bring up was from 1960. So now we're going way back.
Mm-hmm.
The early 1960s.
Not
that far.
Be kind, Baron. Be kind.
Well, because Cassie and I are closer to the same age here. But there was a doctor in here he was a physician. He was living in New Zealand. And he reported it was a female, that she cured herself of colon cancer by adopting a whole grain diet that excluded meat, fish, cheese, sugar, spices, and refined salt. She theorized that cancer and other degenerative diseases resulted from excess acidity or alkalinity. Yes. In good health, our blood and lymph systems are slightly alkaline. It is no good having a bit of one's body cut out, as in a cancer operation, if the irritant poison is in one's whole body. Mm-hmm. One must eat the right food in the right portions and so purify the bloodstream, thus rendering the operation unnecessary. So she's basically saying that you go in, whether it be breast cancer, colon, you go in and you cut out the problem, but the problem is actually the whole body, and we're not addressing the whole body.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Your thoughts, Cassie?
Well, I was going to say that might be necessary. Oh, hello. That might be necessary just to keep it from spreading, and then you work on the terrain, because it's definitely a terrain thing.
Right.
It doesn't happen in isolation. Our stress level all feeds into that acidity, and most of us are sedentary, stressed out, and just not even aware. We don't even know what we don't know.
Right.
And that's the problem, and that's why we're here doing this.
Well, guess what the name of this show is on YouTube? You don't know what you don't know.
Get out. No way.
This show is called You Don't Know What You Don't Know.
Well, you learned something.
Apparently, you're just meant to bring that up.
Yeah.
Well, what I'd love to do is swing back to Melissa because I haven't finished my drink. And you did mention the fiber in here helps sweep out. Okay.
Yes. So.
But we are in a room with an interesting contraption behind me. Tell me what you guys have here.
Okay. So this colon hydrotherapy device is called the Libby. It's an open system. So this is the Libby. And so we get to work with clients.
Nice job, Anna.
We get to work through clients or with clients doing colon hydrotherapy with this. And thank you, Casey. It's gravity fed. And so it's really gentle. People worry about if it's going to be too rough on the system. So it's just a gentle introduction of warm filtered water into the colon. And then the water just slowly softens up waste. And when waste is softened enough, then it, through your body's natural peristalsis wave-like motion, it starts to move contents out of the body. And so that's colon hydrotherapy in a nutshell. We are also doing things during the session to help people better release. So we do, if the client would like, we can be in the room doing visceral organ work to manually help stuff come out. We can do reflexology to help stimulate the colon to release.
And even some manual lymphatic movement as well. The colonic will move some of the lymph as it goes along, but we also do some pumping of certain parts and just really get the lymph moving even more so, especially if someone has a compromised situation going on.
Okay. So this appears to me to be just a chair with a spot here that looks like it probably pushes the water.
Yes. Casey, can you hand me one of the nozzles? So this is one part that people always want to know about what is going into the rectum. And so clients, when they come in, they do a self-insertion in privacy, but these are sanitary, single-use, disposable nozzles. It only goes in about 1.5 inches. And so this just puts water into the colon. And then when someone's ready to release, it's going to feel the same way you do when you need to release, on the toilet. So then you release and the contents go around the tube and into the basin and it's swept away in sewage.
Okay.
And there is even a clear tube and a mirror for people to watch what comes out of them because it's information. It's good information for them.
Scatology is huge. What your poo looks like tells us a lot.
I'm going to have you let go of the bottom of that microphone. Grab the top. Yeah. Otherwise we get a lot of feedback.
Anyways,
Sorry about that.
So you mentioned a word a minute ago, Casey, that I didn't recognize. Scatology.
Scatology,
So
which is
that?
the study of poo.
Wow, I have a degree in psychology.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of times you'll see poo that are floating, and a lot of times we'll have gallbladder issues, and so it's not. The bile is not emulsifying the fats, and so it tends to float and be a little bit stinkier.
Okay.
And and sometimes they're really dense, and maybe food isn't being really digested. So we'll see sometimes a lot more mucus, which to me just kind of indicates, because we have like 3 layers of mucosa, that something's going on that's really irritating the inside of your colon, that it's building up and trying to protect itself.
So do you guys examine what comes out to tell people like maybe what the issue or what it maybe seems that the issue would be, like if it's more mucus, like she was saying?
Yeah, because we're not doctors, we can't say like, oh, that's candida or whatever, but we can show pictures of what candida looks like, and we can say stuff like, it could be this.
Okay.
And
You
so
might
on.
want to follow up with a candida cleanse, or you might want to follow up with a naturopath, whatever their path is for them.
Okay. Perfect.
Well, and it's intriguing you said it that way. We had a guest on quite some time back, and his son was 4, and he was having headaches so bad he was banging his head on the floor, right?
Yeah.
And they go in, the tech does a scan, and the tech knows what they're looking at. The tech could see a cancerous thing on his brain stem, but the tech can't tell you that, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not licensed as a doctor to tell you the information. Now, the look on the tech's face, the guy knew me and there was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though you can't say, well, this is what's inside your poo, you can say, well, you might want to go talk to XYZ person.
Exactly.
And it helps us with our clients because we take a progress note every time, and there's 2 of us that work here, so it helps for us to have follow through and to be able to look in there and go, I know exactly what this client is happening with them.
Right.
And so that's really important for us, and it just gives us feedback, and we can show them, hey, when you first came to us, you had just some mucus and maybe a little blood in there, you had hemorrhoids, and now this and this is completely different. You're releasing almost right away. You're not getting these round little pellets anymore. And so
And I love when we refer people to other naturopaths or other practitioners. We don't see them for a year. They come back and they just share how much better they're doing through the work of, not just starting with colon hydrotherapy, but through diet and lifestyle changes. So it's encouraging.
And you just said something that I think is directly opposite of Western medicine. I don't even think you know this yet, but we have a guest in a few weeks. She is a 10th generation Native American healer.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
10th generation,
Yeah.
right? And your goal is for them to not to come see you anymore.
Absolutely.
And yet it
Yeah.
feels like within a lot of Western medicine,
Yeah.
if we can keep you just at this point, you will come back.
I'd say we're kind of along the lines of dentistry, though. I think there's amount of preventative that's good to do, and it really depends upon the person and their genetics and where you're at, what you're working on. But periodic cleansing, I think, is really important. A lot of people do cleansing with the seasons because the microbes change with each season. And so, for some people that might be like a monthly colonic, or for another it might be 6 months, or another person it might be once a year, and do a couple colonics, and you're out on the highway.
Right,
Doing well.
right.
And for someone that's drinking a lot or doing, in a job that has a lot of toxic burden, they might need to be someone that would come more regularly because their toxic burden is so high. And
So-
that will affect that ecosystem.
And I'm going to have you hold that thought for the second half of the show, because that's going to be a really great discussion on the microbiome of your stomach and how that plays into it. But the one question I do want to ask, because this has always kind of intrigued me, we have a small intestine and a large intestine, and I've heard this number once, so I can't remember what it is. If you were to take the intestines and stretch it all the way out, how long are your intestines? Do you know?
Yeah, it's about 31 feet altogether from the mouth to your bum. So it's about 5.5 to 6 feet just for the large intestine.
So it just winds back and forth,
Yeah,
back and
the
forth.
small intestine just goes around. And really, we need that much surface area. Like if you were to lay out the surface area of the small intestine, it would fill a tennis court.
Wow.
Yeah, it's huge just with those ripples and stuff, because that's for nutrient absorption and electrolytes and things like that. So your gut is the holy grail. And it's not just because I'm a colon hydrotherapist.
But if we're putting the wrong stuff in and it's going across those 31, would you say 31 feet?
Yes.
Right? And then it gets to the colon. If it's lucky, it gets to the colon. It could get stuck anywhere inside there.
Mm-hmm.
So does this help get the stuff that's stuck unstuck and then get out?
Yeah, we do get quite a few people that are last minute. They're reaching out to us and they're like, I think I have a blockage and my next stop would be the ER or surgery. And so, yeah, we'll get them in. And sometimes it takes a couple sessions because, once again, a big part of what we're doing is just soaking the colon. And your colon has to be 80% hydrated in order for peristalsis to even work.
Which is that muscle contraction, because the colon is a muscle. It has longitudinal and latitudinal fibers, and it is a muscle. It counts on that peristalsis to move things through.
Wow.
So if somebody had like a bowel obstruction, is that what you're talking about?
Yep.
You can, okay.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, so we might recommend like doing castor oil packs or something in preparation for a colonic, kind of like a hairdresser. We don't have a magic wand. That sometimes, depending on the person, it could take like a lasagna pan. We have to kind of soak you, have you come back another day, and depending on their health, we might need to go in shorter durations than a longer colonic of.
So I'm just going to go on record as lasagna will never have the same effect on me.
Ruined
And
it for
I have a visual now, Casey, of a lasagna pan and this colon therapy that's just never going to be the same for me. I know, I see that.
That's funny.
I know. Well, we are running really short on time, and there's so much more you ladies have to share. What I would like to do, though, when we come back from our commercial break, is do you have some clients that would be okay with you sharing their stories?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when we come back from our commercial break, if you could share a couple stories. I know that there's two that you've mentioned. There's one that I think is a really powerful story, and they might even be here to share their own story.
Okay, perfect.
Excellent.
All right, you guys, I'm going to give a huge shout out to Odd Moe's Pizza, who is our sponsor for this first half. Best pizza in the world. I'm going to say that. Best pizza in the world.
Well, they definitely won Best of Willamette Valley.
I know, and they're so good. Oh, my goodness.
So they have stuff for us gluten-free folks?
They do.
Yahoo!
They
Cocoa
do.
Pops.
Absolutely.
We can play in the reindeer game.
Absolutely.
And they have vegan cheese.
Woohoo!
Yes. They've got, it's unbelievable, their options. So Google Odd Moe's Pizza, and you can pull up their menu, and it's absolutely amazing. They deliver. And so you don't even have to leave your own home. All right, you guys, we'll be right back. Stay tuned.